Bible scholars say somewhere out here in eastern Turkey, Mount Ararat has long been the favorite theory. Now, a group of Turkish scientists and Noah fans, evangelical Christians from Hong Kong, claim they found chunks of his eponymous ark.
Mount Ararat has been the go-to for explorers. But what were they expecting to see on such a rugged mountain with sharp terrain? Recently, a drone was flown over certain parts of the mount only to capture a shocking image that sent shockwaves to the entire scientific community. What did the drone discover? Join me as we delve into the mysterious, perplexing discovery on Mount Ararat. Chapter 1. An expedition on Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat's rugged peaks served as the destination for Dr. Fethi Ahmet Yüksel, who led a group of archaeologists to search for Noah's Ark. According to him, the stories he had heard about the biblical vessel intrigued him, and from all indications, Mount Ararat was the ideal location for his exploration of this long-forgotten vessel. Yüksel assembled an accomplished group of archaeology students, photographers, climbers, researchers, and technical specialists. The group was equipped with cutting-edge equipment and unwavering determination. They set off on their journey through bitter cold and strong gusts. For years, a dedicated crew of Ark enthusiasts had been scouring the icy slopes of Mount Ararat in hopes of discovering any traces of the biblically reported ship named Noah's Ark. Did he eventually find the Ark? We'll find out shortly. As they arrived at the Durupina site, which is said to contain the remains of the fabled Ark, researcher Andrew Jones noticed a promising-looking spouting from the surrounding snow. When ground-penetrating radar revealed a big structural mass beneath the snow, they hurried to examine it and found well-organized timbers that pointed to the existence of a man-made building underneath. The team was filled with enthusiasm when they realized that the dimensions matched those found in ancient books, giving them optimism that they had actually found Noah's Ark. Their astonishing discovery spurred swift action. They moved part of the wood for examination and discovered that it dates back 4,800 years ago. Yüksel and Jones rushed to contact British media sources and nearby Turkish museums to announce their amazing discovery. Excitement filled Yüksel as he informed reporters that the formation did not fit the description of a large, divided, antiquated wooden naval vessel. It might indeed be Noah's Ark. Excitement erupted in Yüksel's crew as he informed them that everything fitted perfectly into the biblical timeline, and that the fragments represented the first tangible proof that Noah's ship and the flood actually happened, as the Bible says. The explosive news instantly gained international attention, sparked heated debate, and made headlines all over the world. Even if skeptic scientists expressed questions, many Christian organizations hailed the discovery as evidence that biblical history was true. This story won't be complete without reviewing some of the heated arguments surrounding the discovery, so let's get to that. Chapter 2. Mixed reactions about the Ark's genuity. When Dr. Yüksel and Andrew Jones made their purported finding of Noah's Ark remains on Mount Ararat public, it quickly shot to the top of news stories worldwide. Although many in the religious community welcomed it as concrete proof that significant Old Testament events actually happened, the scientific community viewed the claim with great suspicion. Bible scholars, archaeologists, geologists, historians, and evolutionary biologists quickly got into a heated argument about the veracity of the findings and the implications for established history if they were confirmed. Scripture scholars who were ecstatic, such as Dr. Raymond Johns of Yale Divinity School, expressed shocked emotions. Johns fervently stated on a CNN special panel that this might be archaeological evidence that important biblical stories like the flood and Noah actually occurred. The chronological accuracy of Genesis is strongly supported if the carbon dates found in wood remnants match that era. The intriguing prospect of finding the Ark was used by numerous Christian denominations in their sermons and teachings. A small-town Oklahoma congregation's pastor, Frank, delivered the following sermon. The fact that we can now see and touch remnants of God's actual covenant with Noah validates our unwavering faith in Holy Scripture. In light of the shocking discovery, organizations such as God Evidence Archaeology gathered funds to dispatch further Christian exploration teams to search Mount Ararat. Conversely, skeptic geologists cited well-established data from Earth's geological record. The chairman of UC Berkeley's archaeology department, Professor Martin Stokes, categorically declared on MSNBC that there is no evidence of a global apocalyptic flood that occurred a few thousand years ago. Even if scientists discover an ancient boat building, it won't contradict the widely accepted timeline of human civilization developed over years of study. Instead of relying solely on meticulous scientific investigation to reach their conclusions, some scientists even charge the explorers with staging or faking the entire discovery in order to gain attention and financial gain. Islamic clergy in Turkey shared this doubt, thinking Noah's Ark must have crashed somewhere else. Reporters were warned by an irate Turkish imam that it is religious folly to keep searching Mount Ararat while ignoring the prophetic location where Noah's Ark landed. He claimed that the believers who are aware of the true location of the shrine are unmoved by these purported results. This means the Muslim faith does believe that the Ark landed on Mount Ararat. Prominent experts on evolution also provided their opinions. Dr. Melanie Chang tweeted that not one atypical mountain wood structure nor migration record compiled from the millennia of fossils and DNA refutes evolutionary science. How could this be? Profound disputes spread over popular social media sites, both parties threw arguments and supporting data at one another, frequently speaking over one another instead of having a productive conversation. The professors of geology questioned how they could date the wood that old with any degree of confidence, even with cutting-edge technology. Bible defenders shot back, saying they were only afraid this would refute evolution theory. While believers urged that scientists cease suppressing the truth that our faith has maintained for generations, scientists called for an independent peer assessment of methods. Did Yüksel truly accomplish the unthinkable by discovering Noah's elusive vessel frozen atop Turkey's notorious mountain? Or was it a clever ploy that was going to be exposed? The world closely followed every new development as Yüksel's Ark remnants continued to be examined in secret laboratories amid intense controversy. Some complained that there would never be sufficient proof to convince the opponents. Others countered that such a big decision needed careful thought before being made. However, the great majority avoided making snap decisions and instead observed the historical news with open interest. Could these perplexing organic artifacts genuinely alter the accepted timeline of human origins, scientific theory, and religious theology? Or will the contentious discovery, like the other failed expeditions before it, slip into disappointed obscurity? The fierce discussion continued until there was definitive confirmation. According to scientist Todd Wood, director of Bryan College's Origins Research Center, radiocarbon dating needs to be adjusted to account for shorter periods. Wood states that a conventional radiocarbon dating of several tens of thousands of years should be used if the timber structure found by the worldwide team from Noah's Ark Ministries is indeed 4,800 years old. He thinks Noah's Ark will never be found, stating that the enormous boat was probably broken apart and scavenged for building materials. He reasoned that because you have a giant wooden boat, and there are no trees around, you can use it to build a house. The fact that the first book of the Bible, Genesis, does not indicate which Turkish mountain the Ark landed on is another reason why scholars are understandably skeptical. Mount Ararat was only later linked to an old kingdom in eastern Turkey, according to Jack, a professor of Jewish and biblical studies at Vanderbilt University. This makes the entire idea strange. The Bible claims that the Ark landed someplace in an ancient kingdom in eastern Turkey. According to Stony Brook archaeologist David Zemansky, there is no geological proof of a massive flood in Turkey around 4,000 years ago. In fact, he claims that no one associated Mount Ararat with the Ark until the 10th century BC, which calls into question the conclusions of the international Noah's Ark explorers who, according to Zemansky, appear to be playing around with the archaeological, historical, and geological records. He also noted that the discovery of a wooden building or boat on Mount Ararat does not imply the discovery of Noah's Ark. He adds that even if the building were built as a shrine by early Christians, it wouldn't be 4 millennia old. Chapter 3: The Radiocarbon Dating and the Flood Timeline. The world was enthralled when Dr. Yüksel and Andrew Jones unveiled the astounding finding of the enormous wooden structure comparable to the biblical descriptions of Noah's Ark, if validated. Such a discovery has the power to alter history and canon. However, the remains needed to be rigorously verified beyond a reasonable doubt in order to be accepted by science and religion. The first significant validation test was conducted by Yüksel, who, under strong secrecy agreements, carried painstakingly removed shards of the old timber beams and other organic materials to certified radiocarbon dating laboratories. Using more precise measurements of residual carbon-14 isotope levels than was previously feasible, this research would establish the age of the constituent parts. The world was shocked by the lab results, which came after tense weeks of waiting. Based on the carbon decay signs found in the biological samples, the wood and other components were estimated to be 4,800 years old. These analytics indicate that the massive aged timbers date back to approximately 2,800 BC, give or take a few generations for error margins. In a shocking television appearance, Yüksel disclosed with reverence that these timbers are older than even the oldest known constructions, and that the biblical flood timeline places the date of the flood between 5,000 and 3,000 BC. The similarity is too strong to ignore. Put another way, it is conceivable that Noah himself constructed and sealed the carbon-dated wreckage discovered high atop Mount Ararat. The implications astounded biblical academics. Prominent professor of the Old Testament, Dr. William Jennings, confirmed that if the carbon calculations in the lab are accurate, then these organic residues firmly locate the beginnings of the structure right in the time that Genesis states the event's occurrence. As soon as the lab results were accepted in religious circles, theologians rushed to re-examine Genesis passages that described the dimensions and materials of Noah's vessel. Could this empirically verified finding imply that everything of the biblical history associated with the Ark, including the Great Flood itself, was written down in actuality rather than as a metaphor? Pastors fervently reaffirmed to their congregants in churches worldwide that science and carbon dating now prove their scriptural teachings to be historically accurate. Yet a number of doubtful scientists disputed the dating process and findings. In response to criticism of the first findings on the Mount Ararat structure, the lead geologist claimed further evidence was necessary to conclude that the samples were uncontaminated. Determining precise carbon decay curves over millennia remains more of an artistic endeavor than a scientific one. He insisted on a procedural gaps examination of the entire analysis procedure. Others dismissed the implications, but grudgingly acknowledged the accuracy of carbon dating itself. A group of anthropologists claimed in Times magazine that although they discovered ancient wood, this does not show beyond a reasonable doubt that the building is Noah's mythical vessel, as recorded in the Bible. Yüksel's team attempted to remain impartial despite the intense debates surrounding the radiocarbon findings in academia and the media. When questioned about possible religious motivation, the lead archaeologist said that they found an abnormality that begged for best practices-based research, and did not profess to know the significance of this finding. Nevertheless, Jones discreetly acknowledged to the chaplains that the lab date correlations with the flood chronology took them by surprise. Most importantly, the seemingly impossible had been made achievable by accurate carbon dating, which pinpointed the age of the astounding Mount Ararat edifice to the exact biblical time frame of Noah's Ark. Regardless of how quickly or slowly the results were embraced globally, radiocarbon analytics attracted the interest of academics and religious communities. The search for conclusive solutions was far from over. As the world waits on tenterhooks for the secret location, a fierce debate breaks out between passionate biblical defenders shouting the confirmation of the scripture against doubtful academics, branding it inconclusive after Dr. Yüksel revealed finding remnants of Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat, but refused to reveal their coordinates. Chapter 4. Debate over the location of the Ark. The world yearned for additional information after Dr. Yüksel and Andrew Jones reported their incredible finding of Noah's Ark remains on Mount Ararat. However, the explorers closely guided the location of the exact spot where they had discovered the enormous relic emerging from glacial debris. They were concerned that an influx of inexperienced users may harm the website. Nevertheless, there was a flurry of debate about whether they had located the fabled ship's landing site from Genesis and consequently validated the flood epic. The book of Genesis states that after 40 days and nights of non-stop rain, the rushing floodwaters gradually revealed dry peak tops, where Noah's enormous ark ran aground on the Ararat Mountains. Many gradually believed it was Turkey's Mount Ararat, the highest point in the entire Ararat range inside the bounds of the ancient Urartu kingdom, even if the precise resting spot remained unknown for generations. Millions of people connected the dots when Yüksel mentioned finding a large ark-like form on Mount Ararat. This validated nearly 2 millennia of views that the biblical mountain had to be the scriptural vessel's last resting place. Prominent Old Testament scholar Father Etheridge stated on his well-liked podcast that Noah's ship was truly found jammed on the isolated Mount Ararat, as was previously thought, strongly grounds Christian teaching in verifiable historical facts. Pastors reaffirmed to faithful congregations throughout Sunday sermons worldwide that this good news should deepen their faith. Experts discovered Noah's lost ark exactly where their theories led them to believe. Yüksel was praised by the conservative theological institution that had formerly expelled him for investigating evolution theories, claiming that his work had given dignity to them all before God. On the other hand, biblical archaeology and geography specialists quickly dashed hopes by pointing out that Mount Ararat is never specifically mentioned in Genesis. Rather, the book claims that the ark landed on the Ararat Mountains, which refer to the vast region of the ancient Urartu kingdom home to numerous peaks. They presented, pointing out that Noah's biblical location is not always the same as locating old wood on a single mountain in eastern Turkey. Scholars who are skeptical, such as Dr. Isaiah Dunn, a professor of religious history, went one step further and explained in an online article titled, "Why the Discovery Proves Nothing." He said that the vessel may have realistically come to rest on entirely other slopes, hundreds of miles away from the present mountain, given that the word Ararat in early Hebrew writings is used generically to refer to kingdoms or regions. Credulous explorers retaliated against scholars by claiming that the Ararat Mountains could only point to the highest, most noticeable peak. Jones even asked Yüksel, perplexed, why they couldn't just believe that God's providence brought them to this discovery, regardless of the exact location matching. Dr. Yüksel's team remained composed, defying pressure to divulge their valuable site coordinates. Yüksel assured that they would lead committed researchers there when the time was right. Until then, more research is necessary before putting the public in danger of contamination. Debates concerning localization assumptions erupted, but the location of an apparent man-made relic that matched features found in Genesis would stay under wraps, a deadly secret shielded from further disclosure. God gave the righteous Noah instructions to build a massive life-saving ark after warning him of plans to flood the corrupt world. This creates an enduring story of belief versus doubt that has resonated across the Jewish, Christian, and Islamic religions for millennia. Yüksel refused to unveil the location of the ark. Does that mean he's just dropping a new hoax? What did the drone discover on the mountain? Chapter 5. Diverse Expedition on Mount Ararat. Before we unveil the certainty of Yüksel's discovery, it's crucial to unveil some expeditions that had been carried out on Mount Ararat concerning the search for the Ark and what their result looked like. According to an Associated Press story by Edwin Greenwald in 1948, Kurdish locals found a massive petrified wooden ship on Mount Ararat. Landowner Shukra Asina told Greenwald that in September, a farmer named Reshit discovered the ship's prow approximately 2/3 of the way up the mountain. Asina said that once Reshit announced his find, people climbed Ararat to see the object, with many villagers traveling from other towns. Egerton Sykes, a British amateur archaeologist, planned to mount an expedition to confirm that Reshit's discovery was, in fact, Noah's Ark, even though the story was primarily based on hearsay. Sykes was assisted in preparing everything for the operation by Aaron J. Smith, Dean of the People's Bible College in North Carolina. Due to Mount Ararat's close proximity to the Soviet border, Pravda accused the two of organizing a spying operation for Anglo-American imperialists, garnering media attention. Smith continued without Sykes because he could not progress due to a lack of funds. The group arrived in Turkey and spent 2 months in Istanbul, obtaining all the licenses required to continue on to Ararat. After this wait, Greenwald joined Smith's group, which employed Reshit as a guide. Nevertheless, despite the promise of a reward for information, Reshit could not be found. The team could not locate any witnesses, despite Greenwald's article claiming that people had seen Reshit's discovery all around the region. Despite the mission's failure, Smith hoped Noah's Ark would one day be discovered in Ararat. The initiative, according to expedition member Nikati Dolunay, has done a great deal for science and research as regards the Ark. It has finally completely refuted claims and observations made over the course of more than a century that the Ark is visible. David Fasold conducted a conversation with Ali Oglu Resit Sarihan in 1986, and he thought the man was the same Reshit Shukra Asena had written about 38 years previously. Fasold claims that the object that Reshit claimed to have found in 1948 was actually the Durupinar location, not Mount Ararat, as was first stated. What was the Durupinar story? İlhan Durupinar of the Turkish Air Force and Sevket Curtis of Ohio State University discovered an unusual shape close to Doğubeyazıt during a 1959 geodetic survey of Turkey. The object's dimensions and shape suggest it might be Noah's Ark, because it is around 450 feet, 140 meters, long and 150 feet, 46 meters wide. After an expedition led by evangelist George Vandeman visited the location in 1960, it was discovered that the shape was a naturally occurring geological feature. Ron Wyatt, who visited the site in 1977, 1979, and 1984, rekindled its interest. The location was designated as a national park by the Turkish government in 1986 as a result of Wyatt's advocacy for his findings. Although salvage specialist David Fasold and geophysicist John Baumgardner fervently believed that the location was actually Noah's Ark, they finally parted ways with Wyatt to voice doubts about their conclusions. In a 1996 study, Fasold and geologist Lawrence G. Collins co-authored a claim that the location cannot have been Noah's Ark, nor even a man-made model. According to a 2004 announcement by Pastor Boaz Lee Chi Kwang and founder of media evangelism Andrew Yuen Man Phai, parts of Noah's Ark were unearthed on Mount Ararat. They stated that on their fourth visit to the mountain, their group discovered a sizable wooden building at a height of 4,200 meters, 13,800 feet. The search team had been investigating Ararat as Noah's Ark Ministries International, NAMI, since 2003, according to an exhibit at the Noah's Ark amusement park in Hong Kong. Blurred photos were the only proof Yuen and Lee had for asserting that a mysterious force interfered with their video. A documentary called The Days of Noah, which was based on the NAMI voyage, was released in 2005 by Media Evangelism. The website of NAMI states that Turkish climber Ahmet Ertuğrul, also known as Parasut, sent a sample of petrified wood to the organization in August 2006 that he said he had taken from a second timber structure 4,000 meters, 13,000 feet, up Mount Ararat. According to NAMI, an expedition that was dispatched in February 2007 discovered that the 2004 location had collapsed as a result of an earthquake, and that the weather had made it impossible to investigate the 2006 site. A press conference in October 2007 revealed that additional petrified wood was successfully gathered from where Ertuğrul had reported by a follow-up operation in August. During a press conference held on April 25, 2010, NAMI revealed that the wood structure found by Ertuğrul had been unearthed and videotaped by an expedition in October 2009. Ertuğrul indicated at the press conference that he learned about the website in June 2008, despite NAMI's website claiming that he discovered it in August 2006. Yuen and Lee reported that there was no discussion of the wooden building in 2004. According to NAMI, specimens from the site were carbon dated to 4,800 BP. Videos showing the inside of the building were posted to NAMI's YouTube channel. Turkey would submit the site for recognition as a World Heritage Site, according to NAMI. When UNESCO was contacted for comment, a representative claimed that the institution had not received any such request. The announcement was met with mostly skepticism in the immediate aftermath. The absence of expert archaeologists in the study, and the choice to present the results at a media event rather than in a peer-reviewed publication, disturbed mainstream scientists. Creationists also voiced concerns regarding the dearth of information accessible for impartial confirmation. Later, Andrew A. Snelling claimed to have received their radiocarbon dating report from NAMI, which revealed that the 4,800 BP result was the result of a single test on a single sample. Furthermore, Snelling disregarded the 4,800 BP result as proof of Noah's Ark because of creationist theories regarding the presence of carbon-14 in ancient wood. The Ministry of Culture and Tourism in Turkey raised skepticism regarding the authorization that NAMI obtained to carry out their trips and initiated an inquiry into the manner in which NAMI shipped its wood samples from Turkey to China. Randall Price, who had advised NAMI in 2008, surfaced a few days after the announcement, claiming that Ertugrul had employed Kurdish laborers to build the site with wood from an abandoned building close to the Black Sea. In a statement, NAMI said Price was not privy to any findings made after October 2008, when their collaboration terminated. Team members refuted NAMI's allegations, saying it would be impossible to transport enough supplies up Mount Ararat to erect the building they had outlined. Price and his associate Don Patton refuted the claim by pointing to prior Ararat trips that employed heavy machinery and a 2007 PR stunt in which Greenpeace erected a 10-meter, 33-foot replica of Noah's Ark atop the mountain. Well, these expeditions look inconclusive. Could it mean that Yüksel's claimed discovery would follow the same pattern? Before we conclude, let's discuss the biblical and Quranic accounts of Noah's Ark. Chapter 6. The Biblical and Quranic Accounts of Noah's Ark. One of the most enthralling narratives from the three main religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is the story of Noah's Ark. For millennia, people's imaginations have been piqued and concerns have been raised by the epic story of the Great Flood that ravaged the planet and Noah's supernaturally inspired building of a massive vessel of rescue. The Hebrew Bible's book of Genesis contains the first recorded account of Noah's aquatic voyage. According to the biblical narrative, God was extremely troubled by how immoral and depraved that era's human race had become. People disregarded their Creator, breaking moral laws at every turn and acting in a blatantly cruel manner toward one another. Extreme anarchy was in place. God therefore issued a command that is still emotionally impactful today. Civilization would require a reset and power wash. During this period, many evil spirits roamed the globe, but one man in particular, Noah, stood out to God as pure and innocent. According to the Bible, he received God's favor. When Noah heard the Creator's apocalyptic plan for a great flood intended to wipe the slate clean and try humanity again, he gave him the order to start building a huge boat that could hold Noah's family and male and female versions of every form of living thing. Noah built a 3-story timber colossus that measured 300 cubits in length, 50 cubits in width, and 30 cubits in height, all in accordance with God's precise design. According to contemporary estimations, the ark was approximately 437 feet long, 73 feet broad, and 44 feet high. Centuries before the heyday of ancient Egypt, Noah was tasked with building an enormous vessel worthy of the ocean, even by the standards of modern shipbuilding. He had to do this with resources and technology that were readily available. According to Genesis, God gave Noah incredibly precise instructions on how to build what was effectively the first floating zoo in history. The 3-story ark was intended to feature endless rows of rooms, with humans occupying the center level, and birds perching on the top, all home to various creatures. To ensure total waterproofness, pitch was to be used to seal it both inside and out, The upper deck was to have a huge door put into the side and an 18-inch opening running around its circle. Even though it all looked unbelievable, Noah remained strong in the face of it all. He was completely convinced that God would find a way if he demanded such a difficult feat, knowing that a terrible deluge was about to occur soon. After gathering his 3 sons, their wives, and their sons' wives, Noah gave them the go-ahead to gather the building supplies and begin construction. Scripture states that it took between 75 and 100 years to finish the massive undertaking. During that period, Noah's neighbors made fun of and chastised him and his family for devoting their lives to such absurd work as sawing, hammering, and hoisting. How on earth will there be enough water to submerge the entire planet? However, Noah maintained his composure and continued until God instructed him to begin loading large and small animals via the side entrance of the ark. The floodgates opened literally 7 days after Noah, his family, and the animals were all safely inside. Massive subsurface reservoirs exploded, launching pillar-like jets of water kilometers into the skies as torrential rains descended from the sky. There was constant precipitation for 40 tense days and nights. Before long, nearly 30 feet of water covered even the highest mountains. Everything had vanished from life on land. The newly built ark served as the only haven for the last remnants of humanity in the Beast Kingdom, as the entire planet had turned into a deep, saline sea. For 5 long months, Noah, his family, and all the animals within weathered the storm until the ferocious storm finally subsided and the water level gradually dropped. The confused occupants of the ark came to be known as the new ancestral fathers and mothers of humanity after it grounded atop one of the summits of the Ararat mountain range, which lies between modern-day Turkey and Armenia. According to Muslim belief, based on verses from the Quran, Noah lived for an additional 350 years after setting foot on dry land and was regarded as the second Adam. The Quran, the primary sacred book of Islam, contains over 100 verses dedicated to Noah. However, instead of using the standard English translation of the biblical name, he is called Nuh in Arabic. With a few exceptions, the Islamic portrayal of Nuh closely follows the account of Genesis. Most notably, it asserts that Nuh and his companions floated in the ark for a period of time approaching 6 months. The Quran also describes Nuh's continuous pleas to God regarding his evil neighbor's foolishness, leading him to finally concede that their depravity was too far gone for any sort of intervention to have any effect. The enduring legacy of Prophet Noah is cemented by the holy books of all 3 Abrahamic faiths: Islam through passages in the Quran, Christianity via the Old Testament of the Bible, and Judaism through the Torah. Despite the passage of millennia, the story of a devoted servant of God accomplishing the seemingly impossible in the Creator's order to save the purest form of life on earth still makes headlines and stirs emotions in people's hearts. One universal principle from Noah's harrowing journey endures despite all the remaining doubts about the historical accuracy of the Great Flood and the true destiny of that ocean-going vessel that changed the course of history. All storms can be weathered with enough faith. Devoted Noah is given cryptic instructions by God to construct a vast lifeboat for land creatures. This task led to fascinating interpretations from historians explaining puzzling logistics like cargo tons, animal space requirements, and even waste collections from the ark. This led to another round of opinions and debates. Also, we are very close to uncovering what the drone found on Mount Ararat, so stay glued to the screen. Chapter 7: The Noah's Ark Puzzle. As fantastical as the story of Noah's Ark may sound, brilliant minds from various fields have tried throughout history to make sense of the extremely difficult practical issues surrounding Noah's divine mission, including theologians, mathematicians, naval engineers, and more. How could a company of this small have built a ship longer than 4 football fields with equipment from the Bronze Age? What prevented months of close quarters stampeding by thousands of wild animals? However, there are still unanswered questions, speculations, and hints that support the elements of this biblical vessel that have captivated people's attention for millennia. Though little is known about daily living on the enormous lifeboat, Genesis tells of Noah obtaining remarkably detailed directions directly from the Creator regarding the unfinished specifications for the 3-story wooden monster. Based on the customary cubit measurement of the time, determined by measuring a man's forearm from elbow to fingertip, God gave the approximate measurements listed below. Length, around 450 feet, or 300 cubits. 50 cubits, or 75 feet in width. 30 cubits, or 45 feet in height. The ark was also supposed to have a sohar and 3 decks that were each divided into compartments. For centuries, scholars have been baffled by the Hebrew phrase sohar. According to some, it alludes to the small apertures situated slightly beneath the roof that let in natural light, akin to the systems that early naval architects designed to keep cargo dry but illuminated. According to more accepting views, it might have been a retractable roof or canopy structure made of gopher wood, an amazing material from antiquity that Genesis mentions was used in the building of the ark. Tim Lovett, a nautical aficionado, contends that Noah's Ark may have been constructed to be totally waterproof by examining these characteristics in conjunction with cutting-edge digital modeling. His theory refutes the common perception of the Ark as a large cargo ship. According to Lovett, a sleeker shape would have been more useful for managing choppy waters, drawing on evidence of Bronze Age construction techniques. The design incorporated outward-leaning walls and progressively shrinking floors to ensure structural stability and divert waves from the vessel. Lovett goes on to explain how the ark's stability in the sea was probably dependent on a ballasted keel, which was a feature of many medieval ships. This substantial object, usually composed of stone or iron, would have balanced the ark during choppy waves by offsetting the weight of the goods and animals inside. It is up for interpretation as to how the hypothetical residents would be taken care of utilizing Bronze Age techniques. Extended maritime voyages without contemporary ventilation or sanitation become questionable when animals are literally portrayed in cramped rows of crates resembling stables or kennels. However, some theorists, like Lovett, contend that given the divine nature of the structure, some practical flexibility should be permitted. It would be difficult to provide for the animals' daily nutritional needs if they were kept in habitats that mimicked natural environments and their population was kept under control. Even without taking water requirements into account, storing a variety of foods, such as meats, fish, cereals, grasses, and fruits, for around 420 days is a difficult undertaking. Noah's Ark, a feasibility study, written by creationist author Henry M. Morris in the 1970s, included thoughts on how to meet these criteria. In one scenario, smaller species lived on grains and collected foodstuffs, while groups of proto-dogs helped shepherds, like Noah's family, hunt larger animals. Morris proposed that God might have worked another miracle by directly maintaining the animals over the year-long journey or causing them to hibernate. Historians envision a hierarchy regarding operational logistics, similar to the naval chain of command still in use today. As the journey's captain, Noah evaluated the situation, ensured there were enough supplies, and made judgments about seaworthiness and balance. His sons and daughters-in-law oversaw specially assigned deck teams that were in charge of maintenance duties like cleaning and leak repair, animal feeding, and garbage removal. Due to its enormous size, the Ark probably navigated and corrected its course gradually, relying more on teamwork than rapid moves like smaller dinghies. This was accomplished by heaving, pushing, or directing oars around the outside. Experts believe that the movement mechanics were comparable to those found in royal funeral boats built in Egypt centuries later for the purpose of moving massive monuments. The task of devising workable answers for problems such as waste management, ventilation, illumination, and the Ark's enormous weight continues to provoke intense discussions among scientists, historians, and religious experts. Most people concur that fantasy characteristics, such as the Ark's enormous carrying capacity and the futuristic-sounding building materials, can be regarded metaphorically rather than literally. This makes it possible to concentrate more clearly on the moral lessons and ramifications of the Great Flood myth, rather than becoming mired in arguments over archaic details. Fundamentally, Noah's voyage represents the greatest test and success of faith and unflinching obedience. The choice to believe in the biblical story of a man who obeyed heavenly commands in a skeptical culture is still a matter of personal conviction because there is no proof that the ark had been found. The ark is a timeless representation of redemption and new beginnings after adversity, demonstrating that God is able to securely lead people who put their trust in Him through the most trying times in life. As for the drone discovering something on Mount Ararat, it all turned out to be a rumor. Yücsel's discovery was not validated. We can only wait as other expeditions would possibly take place in the future. Thanks for watching another episode of Beyond Discovery. While you're still here, check out the other videos you see on your screen.